Welcome back to the Real Texas Radio Podcast with your host, Bronin. If you are joining the show for the first time, 1,000 welcomes. I've got a big show planned. Guess how many overdoses have occurred at or near DART light rail stations? You won't believe it. I'm also going to be talking about the war on Christmas. Again, yes, it is still being perpetrated in April. I have not seen the war on Christmas perpetrated so hard by one person for so long, who I believe may even identify as a Christian. Anyway, we'll get into it. But first, if you haven't already, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow the Real Texas Radio Podcast from wherever you stream, and follow the show on X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. All right, now, you're listening to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin, just a fed-up taxpayer bringing you all of your Texas, local, and national news. Let's go ahead and talk about DART. The Dallas County Commissioners, they actually just approved about a $200,000 ad spend on an overdose campaign. They're going to put up posters throughout DART stations. And do you know how many overdoses there have been at DART stations between 2024 and 2025? So let's start out at the DART stations. At just 7 DART stations, there were almost 400 overdoses between 2024 and 2025. 396. Within 1,000 feet of these 7 DART stations, and I'll get into the details momentarily, there were almost 800 overdoses. 782 overdoses. So that is like 1,200 or so overdoses, either at the DART station or within 1,000 feet of the DART station. Just these 7 stations. Would you care to guess which stations are included in the 7? And these, I believe, these are just light rail stations. God knows that the EMTs and the police are showing up to the bus cabins as well. The West End, of course, made the list. That was audio from the West End station last month, courtesy of Dallas, Texas TV. I tweeted that out at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. That was 2 homeless guys had gotten into it. It looks like one of them had a taser. The West End, that, in my opinion, whenever I think of what's the worst DART station, it is the West End. However, the West End came in at number 5. There were only 44 overdoses at the West End DART station. At the station, another 215 within 1,000 feet of it. And again, that's an area, if you have to walk around the West End station, you really put a pep in your step. You definitely don't want to be looking down at your phone, scrolling, not paying attention, or have your earbuds blasting music when you're going down that zombie apocalypse.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell.
Oh, I was about to say, I don't think Judy Garland would have a good time down the West End, but she overdosed tragically. She had an overdose death, not at the train station, but in the bathroom. The worst station, and I don't even know if I've ever driven by this station, and that's probably a good thing. Marl Station, which is down in it would be west of Corinth Street. It's, I guess, not too far from the Dallas Zoo. I don't think it's District 1, though. Maybe it's a stop east of the zoo. 157 overdoses there at the station. Another 229 overdoses within 1,000 feet. Bachman Station, that's at Bachman Lake, not too far from Love Field. 45 overdoses at the station, another 65 within 1,000 feet. Illinois Station, that is on Corinth Street Road, or they have street and road. I'm not sure if it's one or the other. 43 at the station, overdoses, 57 within 1,000 feet. St. Paul Station, also downtown. That's a pretty notorious station. Oh, that's where the savage killer with the Jason mask and the assault rifle murdered somebody. I think that was in October or November. That was the really violent streak on the Dart. I think there were about 5 homicides in a row, mostly by gun. And MLK Dart Station, which is pretty close to Fair Park, right across the street. 36 overdoses at the station, 77 overdoses within 1,000 feet of the station. What a disgrace. You know, there's another local podcast. They talk about Dart all the time. They have Dart board members appear on the podcast. You would have no idea that there was any crime at Dart stations by listening. And they would have you believe that we just need to keep pumping more money into expanding the Dart rail, streetcar, buses. They don't want to talk about overdoses, that's for sure. And, you know, this item was hidden. I was watching the Dallas County Commissioner's Court meeting earlier this week on Tuesday, and then I just kind of looked through the agenda, because typically the court, the feckless hack Democrat stooges, zero Republican representation on the court that there is. They just breeze through the agenda. They pass everything, no question about any spending. John Wiley Price may question, but he's typically he's typically the only one. And then, of course, COVID Clay Jenkins, who sounds like he's trying to pass a big one on the toilet. He has this habit of sneezing directly into the palm of his hand. This is a guy who allegedly so afraid of COVID. I don't know if he was so afraid of COVID as much as he was so excited about getting free PPP loans from the federal government for his own personal interests and for the betterment and enrichment of his investments. Sneezing into his hand, gross. And yeah, I'm not a germaphobe at all. I mean, I'm not afraid of that. But I'm just saying, if you're perpetrating a hoax that's based around public health and based around this idea of germs in the air and the oxygen that we breathe and the carbon dioxide we breathe out is just full of deadly pollutants, then, you know, I think you should be keeping up appearances, buddy. Maybe you should put a mask on. But I don't even think they discussed the 1,200 overdoses within a 2-year period at Dart stations. 1,200 overdoses. How much does that cost, do you think? I looked at ChatGPT. They said it could cost somewhere in the $1,200 to $3,500 per overdose, the range, which honestly seemed kind of low, factoring that if there is somebody who overdose, and it didn't really, I don't know, is it self-evident if you overdosed, it's automatic death? I thought if you could overdose and be revived, depending on the circumstances, the type of substance you over-ingested. But I imagine there's always cops showing up. You've always got ambulance. Maybe you even have Dallas Fire showing up. Maybe some other people, if there is a death and it's at the station. I would think it would cost more than $3,500, even though that's what I saw at the high end. Plus, if you survive the hospital stay, and now we're factoring in nurses, doctors, other healthcare providers, medication, it seems like it'd be a lot more expensive. So you times 1,200 individuals, and you know, that'd be a nice cost savings if we didn't have people overdosing at the Dart station. Not to mention all the other unsavory behavior that's going on at Dart stations that has rendered them unusable for any person who is not a homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobate. All right, I did just a quick search here, a quick AI search, because I was just curious. So, New York City, obviously, has got the largest subway system in the United States. And I'm seeing it could be anywhere from 500 to 1,500 overdoses per year system-wide. That's all stations. That's all stations. DART, in the data that they produced, only included 7 stations. Then combined for 2024, 2025, again, this is New York City. This is at the stations. It says there could be between 1,000 and 3,000 total overdose incidents. I saw some figures for Los Angeles, and which I'm not very familiar with Los Angeles public transit, but I do know that Los Angeles has a lot more people than does Dallas. And I think I saw about 250 network wide, but I didn't really see many other stats about that. In any case, I have a feeling that DART, if you're comparing really to any other metro area in the United States, that seems pretty high to me. That seems like a lot considering the ridership numbers. In any case, as always, you want to be careful. You want to have your wits about you when you're traveling anywhere near or on the DART.
The mentally insane, we have a lot of mentally insane killers. I mean, you can't even talk to them. It'd be nice if you could have a little reason, but you can't even reason. These are seriously ill people.
Yeah. In fact, did you see that who was just declared incompetent to stand trial? DeCarlos Brown Jr. That is the homeless junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist, reprobate, who had a lengthy, documented criminal history, and he murdered the Ukrainian immigrant, Irina Zarutska, I think that was her name, just murdered her. Just what a bleep bum. Comes up behind her. You probably saw the video. This was in Charlotte, North Carolina, on the light rail or the bus, I'm not sure. Comes up behind her, slashes her throat with a knife. It was so appalling and despicable. And, you know, again, all of these public transit advocates, who they just want you to keep paying and paying and paying out the nose with tax dollars forever on public transit. And they don't want to address these incredible threats who just stalk the public transit. And like I always say, they just make it unusable for the rest of us. So he's not going to stand trial because he's mentally incompetent to stand trial. He's mentally incompetent. How convenient. How convenient. Let's get him right back out in the street. You think he's going to spend the rest of his days behind bars for slashing the throat of a defenseless female immigrant who had no chance to defend herself? She didn't even see it coming. Again, she was looking at her phone. I think she may have had some headphones in. And another reason why you want to be really careful on any kind of public transit anywhere these days. Yeah, because it could be the end of the line. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move off of the topic. I want to talk about something else. The Grinch Janelle Willis on the Dallas City Council. She represents the very exclusive mansion neighborhood of Preston Hollow, as well as some other areas, including Vickery Meadows, less desirable for sure than Preston Hollow. But it's in Preston Hollow that she's getting the donations. Well, back in February, she got shut down at the Culture, Arts, and Life Committee, whatever it's called. She was trying to get Christmas lights banned. She was targeting one specific neighbor. In fact, she's been targeting this person for close to 2 years. And it's a TikTok viral house. I've talked about it many times on the show. I wrote a column about it, bronin.substack.com. You can check it out there. And in any case, she got shut down. She was totally humiliated by Adam Basildua, of all people. humiliated Grinch Janelle Willis and just called her out for being totally ridiculous because she was trying to get an ordinance passed that would have fined this one house. I think she was looking to get thousands of dollars per incident in fines. And all people were doing is just walking down this taxpayer funded and maintained street. And she was going to fine this homeowner if 100 plus people showed up at the house, and then the police were called for safety reasons. Although I don't know why just 100 people walking down a public street in Dallas would trigger the police unless there was something else going on. But let's go ahead. I'm going to play. These are some of the cuts from that February meeting. Grinch Janelle Willis.
Know the kind of work that's gone into this, and we have, to Councilmember Cadena's point, looked at other cities and how things are handled. And this sort of situation hasn't occurred that we've been able to find, because I know you all have really been turning over every stone to find what we could point to on this.
Yeah, the Grinch, she's telling the staff, wow, it doesn't seem like there's any other city in the United States, despite all of the searching that we've done, that has banned its own citizens from walking down a taxpayer-funded street at Christmas to look at lights, or also at Halloween to look at lights. It seems like, no, we want to originate this kind of ordinance right here in Dallas. And obviously, you can probably conceive of all of the First Amendment issues that would be all over this. Here's one other cut I've got of the Grinch. Let me get that queued up here.
8:10. So this is pretty focused on, it's got to be a pretty big deal, and creating safety concerns to even be called into effect, which should not touch most, if anybody.
Yeah, so we need this ordinance so bad because it's not going to affect anybody. So we need it. That's why we have to have it, because it's not going to affect anybody, except for maybe this one house that somebody who donated $10,000 to me or thereabouts doesn't like in the neighborhood, even though it's not their neighbor, and I don't even think it's on their street, but they don't like it. They don't like the people who are showing up, many of them south of I-30. So this was February. It got killed at committee, and after a year and a half of nonsense, you would think that the odious Grinch Janelle Willis, that she would have let it die there. She tried. She could go back to the donor and say, hey, you saw me. I tried. I put up a good fight. I tried to twist some arms. But it just surfaced early this week that she got a 5-signature memo signed with, she's kind of the bag lady to Chad West, the bag man who thinks he's going to be mayor. Some people think that she thinks she's going to be mayor too. I think there's a lot of people who think they're going to be mayor in a couple of years. And so Chad West, who's an attorney who should know better, Paul Ridley, I'm kind of surprised by him. I'm not sure if he's an attorney, actually. He may be. He signed it. Paula Blackman, go figure. And Kathy Stewart, weak sister. She's been described to me by some as, should be good at running the bake sale, but she's a pretty weak sister on the city council. So they all signed this memo that would fine homeowners for putting up Christmas lights if 100 or more, 100 people show up to the house. Just walk up to the house, not drive down the house. Then you would be fined for the Christmas lights. And none of these people, none of these elected officials, including at least one attorney, they thought, perhaps there could be a First Amendment issue here. Because the city of Dallas doesn't have enough problems that you have 5 city councilors who seemed hell-bent to try to trigger more legislation against the city, because that's what they really need. So it should already be settled. This ordinance was killed at committee. Oh, then they put a survey out, and guess what? At least 80% of the respondents, I'm not sure how many people responded, but it could have exceeded 100, reported 80% or so of the respondents or more said that they don't have any problem with Christmas lights. They don't have a problem with lights, period, in their neighborhood. In fact, I dare say there's a lot of neighborhoods in Dallas where they could use a few more lights, particularly if they've got DART stations. And yet she is trying to force this issue again. And at the city council meeting yesterday, I'll get into that in a moment, but she wasn't even there. The yeah, she showed up on Zoom, and every single bad vote.
You can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming.
And you would just hear whenever they called her to register her vote, just cackling in whatever the wrong way to vote was. She was all over that. No, yes, give me my slippers, my pretty. Oh, she is so bad, and she gets worse all the time. She is so bad. In fact, maybe this is a time to plug, but Dallas and Fuego, who, by the way, he's put out a couple of videos recently of the last couple Dallas City Council meetings, and they're really good. I strongly recommend that you check him out. I think he's on all the social media platforms. I usually catch him on Twitter, but he does a really nice job of just compacting the shenanigans that go on at the meetings, and some of the stuff that it's hard to capture in just audio form only to really make the point. He does a good job of pairing it with the video. So I recommend that. But he is also behind a campaign potentially looking to recall Gay Donnell Willis, which is not a small effort. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take, I don't even know the threshold for the signatures, so I don't want to say it and misquote it, but it's going to require thousands of signatures of residents of District 13 specifically, I believe. Over 10,000 signatures for the recall effort, but they are taking donations. Oh, yes, I've got the website right here. It's recallgaydwillis.com. Recallgaydwillis.com. And they've got some real pretty photos of her up on the website. And you know what? You go to the website and it just lists 5 reasons why she must go. Developer puppet. Gay pushes density deals residents scream against. Removing alley trash pickup. That went over like a lead balloon. She's got a lot of alley trash in her district. And at first, she was supportive of getting rid of it, I believe, until just scores of residents started showing up, and 10,000 people filled out a survey saying they don't want to get rid of it, over 90%. Obviously, she is perpetrating the war on Christmas and hates Christmas lights. And, she absolutely wants to get the hell out of City Hall without getting any input from residents. She wants to get rid of it badly. So she's got to go. I'd love to see her gone before the end of her term, but at this point, it's looking like, she's got a little bit less than 2 years in office, but that's still too long for me. So consider donating there to that campaign. See if we can get rid of her maybe a year ahead of schedule. That'd be good news. All right, so I'm just going to talk briefly about what happened at the Dallas City Council meeting on Wednesday. I don't have any sound because the meeting ran long. I'm recording this the evening or late evening of April 8th, and the recording is not out, and I just, busy day. I was just kind of listening passively, tuning in and out of the meeting. But a developer tax abatement came up. This is the 3rd time I've seen these people at the full council. And I knew ultimately what was going to happen. I knew that this developer, he purchased a hotel in District 2, and I think it's on Stemmons Freeway. And paid millions of dollars for it. I don't have the price up in front of me, but he's been asked about this before. Why did you pay market rate or above market rate for this property? And of course, he's being very careful, the developer and his reps, in responding to these questions. But he may as well have just come out and said it. Well, I knew that you guys were going to cancel property taxes for me, and just dump that burden on the rest of the residents of Dallas, basically. And he told them, if you don't give me this tax abatement, and I'm going to give you a few affordable, attainable units, whatever the hell they talk about, whatever BS, over $1,300 a month, they're saying is affordable, or a below market rate, or whatever terms they use. Now, just last week, we were told by this panel that the poorest of Dallas residents, they can only afford $750 a month. So I guess none of them are in mind for this project, this hotel conversion that apparently has had all kinds of crime problems. The property manager there spoke. She talked about the FBI showing up here, the police showing up here, underage prostitution or trafficking going on at this property. So, you know what? I'm fine with developing it, but does that mean that I have to pay the property taxes there in addition to my own exorbitant property taxes? So, you know how it went. You know exactly how it went. The majority or a supermajority of the council voted to give this a lifetime tax abatement, 60 years. Nice. Real nice. So that was one item. Then there was a contract for, I think, road works that came up $90 million. $90 million. And Kara Mendelson, District 12, she observed this firm in their element working in her district because they had a Silver Line contract which runs through her district. So she's interacted with them for years, said they are a nightmare to deal with. They violate all kinds of local ordinances. They don't pull permits. They work outside of work hours. They do crap work. They don't do quality work. And she was like, I will never, ever, 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 ever vote to do any more work with this vendor, and they should be put on the naughty list, and we shouldn't be giving them $90 million. And a couple of the other counselors who usually are go along to get along types, they actually supported Kara Mendelson. They agreed with her. But of course, no, go ahead. Let's keep them. Let's give them $90 million taxpayer dollars to do crap work that is going to need to get redone. If anybody has the sense to even ask them to come back, if anybody's even watching. And you know what the real big problem is? A lot of the people on the council, they're wholly unqualified to evaluate contracts, evaluate a budget, do any kind of scrutiny. And they obviously have a staff of 3, so I guess they didn't hire anybody who has the skills to do that if they don't have the skills themselves. And some of them are just so concerned about equity and being nice and just treating the job like it's church or something like that. And you just want to bring everybody together and be nice. And when it's really a budget job, you really need to be a budget monitor. That's really the core function of the job, from what I can tell. And some of them, they just have no interest in doing it. If there's an opportunity to shave $100K here, $1 million here throughout the year, which is what they should always be doing and looking at, they won't do it. No, instead they'll just say, well, we have to, we might lose a library, because they don't want to do what should be the top priority of the job, looking at every single item, especially $90 million coming up, and seeing why $90 million? Why that big round number? Why not $87 million? Why not $79 million? And we can claw back. They should be asking these questions. And, I think about ways all the time. What would improve the governance structure? Because it just seems so layered and messy and slow and ineffective. But, even if we added at-large counselors and you cut the total number of counselors, I mean, if you keep electing crap people, then you can just have a bunch of crap at-large counselors with even more power. So that's the risk. I mean, Houston is, I think, the only other large city in Texas that has the strong mayor, weak council system. Are people much happier in Houston? I don't closely follow the city council there in Houston. I'll have to start checking in and see what they're getting into. I see Mayor Whitmire often enough on camera, but we need to get better people in there, and it's hard when so few people pay attention. And then, when the last round of voting occurred, when candidates were out and they were promoting themselves, they were doing public events to shore up votes. I mean, I watched one event and one of the candidates showed up in shorts and it looked like prison slippers, and he was running for city council. Didn't get elected, thank God. But for the 9th largest city in America, it seems like a pretty low bar to get in there. All right, I'm Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Keep tuning in, keep listening. I will catch you on the next episode.